everybody? Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so excited here today to be at the launch of AGRA's Women to Women Supply Chain Program, Value for Her. I'd like to welcome everybody to this special 1 hour and 30-minute session. I know there are a lot of guests and speakers, and we really appreciate your time and commitment. I'd just like to say that there is a place where you can ask questions and answers. At the bottom of your screen, you have a little button, as well as a place where you can raise your hand if you'd like to ask any questions or comment. And I think that's really important because we want this event to be for everybody. With that, I would like to invite Vanessa Adams, the Vice President for Strategic Partnerships, to give her opening remarks.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Atsuko. And, you know, Atsuko and African Development Bank are such great partners in everything that we've been doing. So we're so excited that she can join us. And I, for one, on this Friday afternoon in Nairobi, am just so ecstatic. It's been a week of women in ag, women in food systems. Some of us have been participating in the AWEF program, which is going on still today. We've been we've had sessions on training women entrepreneurs in Arise, which was closing out. And it's just been a huge week of, I think, launches and introspection, capitalizing on a big year. You know, a year and a half ago, in the midst of COVID, we did a survey of women entrepreneurs, and we said to ourselves, if COVID is hurting businesses around the world and everybody's in shutdown mode, there has to be a huge impact on women in ways which we can't even begin to say and start and quantify. And in that survey, it was very, very clear. More than 30% of the women were threatened with near closure of businesses. More than 40% of them were looking at completely restructuring their business models. And all of them, not even a single one of them wasn't in need of a different type of financing, and they had to rethink their markets. And many of them had experienced and or had friends who were increasingly under threats themselves of various kinds of existential, violent, or otherwise domestic violence and other kinds of threats. And we just had to take advantage of the crisis. And I say advantage of the crisis, and just like we say, you know, crisis is opportunity. What can we figure out? What can we learn? What can we change? What can be catalytically different coming out of COVID? And that has been something that we've taken up as a mantra, so to speak, as a challenge and a pathway in which we said, no, we aren't going to let things be the same. We don't want to take for granted that progress is being made. Yes, we're optimistic. We're working on food systems transformation. We're moving towards the 2030 agenda. And yet we still see women struggling in their businesses, on farms, and lack of representation in governments, with some notable exceptions. Nigeria, I think, has really started to change the story, and there's some really good data and analytics coming out of Nigeria. We've seen in Kenya, in our village-based advisors, more than 50% of them are women, which is fantastic. We have seen in Rwanda continued growth of exceeding the government representation of women in leadership positions in the Rwandan government. So the progress is there, the fantastic numbers are there, but we just aren't satisfied. It's not enough. So many of you have participated, and we're up to 2,000 women on the Value for Her platform. We had set that as a goal for ourselves when we started this Connect Online platform, and who knew that we would actually deliver in time, on target. So 2,000, and I hope you're all connected. If you're not, we'll put the link in the chat, and you've all heard about it. But what's happening is that of the participation of women entrepreneurs, we said, okay, it's not enough to network, that's critical. It's not enough to be trained, that's also important. But actually taking on mentorship, who are you bringing up? Who are you preparing to be the next leaders, the next entrepreneurs? What pathways are we creating as women for those who are following in our footsteps? And it's through that which we said it's not even enough to mentor. Who are we doing business with? What level of commitment? Let's put our money where our mouth is and deliver on those commitments and do business women to women. It's hard, it's not easy, there are lots of barriers, but we're just absolutely thrilled to see that all of you are joining for this launch, and we want it to take off like wildfire. So we hope this is going to be one of a series, and we'll just keep beating that drum, raising our voices, and getting there all together. So that's my spiel, and I just can't wait to hear from all these great women online, and everybody's dropping into the chat, which is fantastic. So thank you all, and back to you, Atsuko.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Vanessa Adams, Vice President, Strategic Partnerships, AGRA. Thank you so much for the excellent opening remarks highlighting the value that AGRA puts on women, ag stakeholders, the exciting nature of the value for her platform, the fact that we can and we must do things differently after COVID-19. I'd just like to thank Dorothy, Naomi, Jacob, Alilu, Esther, Fatma, all those that are dropping their names into the chats. And we look forward to special remarks now from Mara Barry, Senior Deputy Assistant Administrator, USAID. Over to you, Mara.
Thank you, Astuko, very much. And thanks to everyone who's jumping online. As you said, my name is Maura Barry, and I work at USAID in our Bureau for Resilience and Food Security. And let me start off by just saying how much USAID appreciates the work of AGRA under the leadership of Dr. Kalibata. And I'm just so excited to be here today for this kickoff, or as Vanessa says, for lighting a fire for the Women to Women Supply Chain Program. Did you know that in Africa, 53% of all working women are engaged in agriculture? 53%. So that tells us that agri-food systems are uniquely placed to advance the economic empowerment of women at scale across the continent. And when women have the tools to succeed, then they're able to reinvest, I think we all know, in their families and their communities, and that this really creates a multiplier effect. And that in and of itself promotes sustainable prosperity and growth. When Vanessa asked me to participate in this, I was thinking back to my recent trip to Kenya, back in September for the AGRF, and I had the opportunity to visit some of USAID partnership programs then. And one of them was I visited was a mango cooperative in Makueni County in Kenya. It was a Nzamka Farmers Cooperative, and the members of that cooperative are 70% women. And it really struck me how what was a relatively new women-led cooperative was thriving, and how they were holding up against the economic stresses of the pandemic and of drought, which already in September that county was feeling. And to see how they had evolved and grew quickly and linked up with a Kenyan company that is off-taking fresh mangoes for local and export. And along the way, they became certified in good agricultural practice. They were trained in mango value addition, and they also were able to mobilize a number of other farmer groups to join them in marketing their mangoes. And so the cooperative, also along the way generated a lot of opportunities for youth in that area. And the youth are now providing support in orchard management, harvesting, post-harvest services. And so for me, it was just really impressive. It always is for us, right, when we get to engage, because I'm speaking to you from USAID's headquarters in Washington, and it was just good to get out and see some of the impressive women-led work being done to advance and succeed so quickly. And really recognizing this type of ambition is why boosting women's empowerment is one of the biggest priorities for the US government's Feed the Future initiative. The goal is emphasized also in the first ever recently released US government national strategy on gender equity and equality. And that includes women's economic security and empowerment as a key priority. So as we all work together to advance women's equality and economic security, we want to ensure that our programs reach, that they benefit, and that they empower women in all the roles they play across the food system, including as entrepreneurs and all the other leadership roles that Vanessa was underscoring. Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest rate of entrepreneurship in the world. I just find that, remarkable. And women-owned, women-led enterprises are steadily increasing in numbers as urbanization, changing diets, and transformation of food systems are creating more opportunities for those women to succeed. So that they can succeed beyond small-scale subsistence operations that are impeding their contribution to poverty reduction and shared prosperity. And so that's why we're focused very much on helping women unlock their full potential, focusing on several core priorities that I wanted to mention. And the first is bridging the financing gap. The financing gap that women face, women entrepreneurs face, which is critical for growing and sustaining their business. So through the US Feed the Future initiative, since its beginning just over 10 years ago, we've worked to enable women and women-owned businesses to access more than $730 million in agriculture-related financing. And also USAID is an anchor donor in the ASILI Africa, which many of you might be familiar with. It's a market-based incentive facility that partners with local banks and international lenders. And together, ASILI Africa and its partners are planning to mobilize $600 million to agricultural SMEs in East Africa to improve livelihoods for 1 million farmers and workers by 2025. Also, ASILI is encouraging lending to agri-SMEs by lowering risk for lenders and reducing transaction costs. And also they further encourage lending through gender-based incentive bonuses, ASILI was able to surpass its target of a 30% of all loans, including a gender-based incentive. And in fact, 60% of their loans include such incentives. So I feel like this really emphasized that we can make progress if we're really intentional and integrate a gender lens in our programs. The other thing just that I wanted to focus on is, we know that financing alone, right, is not enough. We know that entrepreneurs have other needs for access to training, to certification, to market information. Those are some of the barriers. And, thankfully, we have growing evidence, a base of evidence on some of these new approaches to address challenges. The World Bank, some of you may be familiar with the World Bank Profiting from Parity report. And that report finds training programs that address socio-emotional skills and gender-specific content are more effective in terms of improved business performance and returns to investment, as well as that they're more cost-effective as opposed to sort of standard managerial training programs. And similarly, mentorship and direct peer support, much like what Women to Women supply chain program will be able to provide that Vanessa was underscoring, can really complement and strengthen that type of training. Also, research by the World Bank's Africa Gender Innovation Lab also highlights that women entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa have lower resilience when faced with shocks such as COVID. And again, I think Vanessa was, talking about that in her opening remarks. And this is due in part to women's disproportionate burden of the unpaid work, right? So as a food security community, I think we must look at that and we must address this persistent challenge that affects not only women entrepreneurs, but all women across the food system. And so building out care infrastructure is a key priority for the US in the new gender equity and equality strategy, and something we're going to be digging into deeper. And just finally, I wanted to also underscore that we must, right, as we come together and say we need all to commit, we have to ensure that women have a voice across food system institutions and are able to create a robust enabling environment. At the UN Food System Summit in September, USAID announced our support for the Gender Responsive Agricultural Systems policy. We're calling it GRASP. It's a new USAID-funded 3.5-year virtual fellowship for female policymakers in Africa to promote gender equality and women's empowerment in food systems. And we're also supporting the Global Food 50/50 initiative, which is a new accountability mechanism to advance gender equality in food systems by monitoring progress towards gender responsive and gender equitable workplaces among food system institutions. So we hope all of these efforts together with what we're launching today will contribute to fundamental changes to food systems by addressing gender norms and gender-based discrimination and paving the way for women to succeed. So thanks again for giving me the opportunity to join you today, and look forward to working together on gender equality and making sure that it's out front and center on our global development agenda. Thank you, and back over to you, Astuka.
Thank you so much, Mara. Mara Barry, Senior Deputy Assistant Administrator, USAID. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other as partners, and also the women entrepreneurs, I'm sure, are so happy to hear about the different programs that USAID is doing to support them. So next, I'd like to go to Sadbio to give us a brief overview of the program that's being launched, the Value for Her Women to Women Supply Chain Program. Sabdio Dido, Head of Gender Inclusiveness at AGRA. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Atsuko, and thank you so much to Mara and Vanessa. I think they did such a fantastic job in laying the background for this program. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through the program that we are launching today. I have a short PowerPoint, so kindly allow me to just beam it. Okay, thank you so much again for joining us, and really excited to launch this program today. Just stepping back a little bit to why we are doing this, and this is from AGRA's perspective, and I know we are all partners at SUCO, the Africa Development Bank, and we've had incredible support from USAID, and really appreciate that, Maura. And we continue to look forward to this continued engagement to really expand in this kind of work. So if you just look at the magnitude of the opportunity that is here. Women comprise, of course, a huge proportion of workers in agriculture. They produce food, they are entrepreneurs, they are custodians of family nutrition. They do, of course, a lot of care work within their home, and at the same time, feed us, feed the continent, feed the world. The unfortunate thing, of course, is that because of all these social burdens that they have to bear, that some are mostly gender reinforced, gender imposed, their productivity is lower than those of male farmers within the same context. And this is the unfortunate scenario that we want to change. There is a 20 to 30% productivity gap between male farmers and female farmers. We know this is a social burden that they have to carry. And this social burden, of course, translates to economic burden. And this is why we are losing annually food that is equivalent to feed 100 million to 150 million people through this social construct that we call gender. So it's very important for us to really look at ourselves again as a society, as countries, as people, as businesses, and try to really figure out, is this warranted? Is this really something, is this the way we want to continue? And for businesses, it's the same. And I'm so glad that Maura actually pointed to this World Bank study that that looked at small enterprises on the continent. Of course, women are a majority, but even here, the same challenges that they face within production clusters actually amplify and again become visible through the businesses. And here again, access to financing, access to knowledge and networks, access to markets. these very many issues compound their situation, and their businesses in the end are less productive than those of male entrepreneurs. And that report actually put it at up to 34% profitability difference. This is such an unfortunate scenario. Again, this is something that we can actually work against to really improve the productivity of women. So against this background, AGRA has come up with this very, very refreshed strategy that is really looking in a very comprehensive way on how to reduce the barriers for women, both on the business side, but also on the production side, by looking at the broader environment, the market environment, the trade environment, the policy environment, the national investment decisions, looking broadly at the environment within which the entire ecosystem within which women entrepreneurs operate, to try to address all these different levels. Of course, we cannot do it alone. That is why we are working very, very closely with our partners, and we truly, truly appreciate the support of USAID, the support of BMGF, the support of very many other PIATA partners that are currently supporting us. Of course, we are looking for very many other partners that could join us because of the scale of the problem, but also the opportunity that lies within it once this problem is resolved. So the program we are launching today, again, Vanessa has actually laid this out very, very well, is a program that is going to catalyze women-to-women supply chains. Why are we doing this? Because we have seen that, and most of us who are in this business know that, especially within rural setups, women get trapped in those social, cultural contexts that they are in, to the extent that they actually get trapped within those systems. So they start businesses, they start these small enterprises, yes, but these small enterprises get stuck within those systems. So how do we pull them out? We are trying out this model. And this model is to use those women SMEs that are already progressing well, and you will hear a number of them shortly, to use them to try to pull them out of that very, very thick, structure that they are stuck in at the moment. Of course, the question is, how many can they pull out, right? And do we want to put that kind of social burden on these businesses? Certainly not. But what we want to do is we want to catalyze that relationship, so that a few of them, a few of the women SMEs, with our support, and there's a small grant that we actually put out, which was competitive, and through that, they will be able to link in each one of them at the minimum 20 businesses. So that is actually the model that we are implementing through this program. Of course, the program is located within AGRA's Value for Her initiative, and particularly within the Women to Market construct. Now, within the Women to Markets construct of the Value for Her initiative, we have two key strands. So one is this program that is really looking at how to increase the connection between women SMEs and these micro businesses that are within these rural setups around agricultural commodities that are mostly food commodities, and build learning and knowledge transfer within these supply chains. So that is really the idea of the program. Now, the second track that we are actually implementing is the track around women in food trade. I'm sure most of you have heard about our regional food trade program. And here under this program, we have a Women in Food Trade Coalition sub-theme that is just looking at how to make it easy for women to penetrate the regional trade, which is a huge opportunity that is actually even expanding further through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So these two sub-programs is actually what we are doing under the markets. And so we have these fantastic companies that are led by women that are listed here, 20 of them. So these are the women companies, the bigger women companies that are going to be pulling these smaller micro businesses into their supply chain, in the end, we are looking at building a supply network of women companies and women micro entrepreneurs, and of course, even vulnerable female smallholder farmers within certain geographies. Some of these businesses are actually working with vulnerable, and vulnerability in this case, we describe it as female-headed households or female-headed farms. They're pulling these supplies from these vulnerable female farmers or micro entrepreneurs, and they are going to transfer knowledge through this supply chain. There will be coaching relationship, there will be mentorship relationship, but there's also something that Maura said, which I actually want to go back to, which was really a very, very interesting aspect of how to build women's capacity. And this is an insight, of course, that has come now through research, that it's not only the training, the business training, is not even only the technical training. For women, you have to go beyond that, and you have to move to their confidence, their self-esteem. And how do you do that? By bringing in a relationship, a mentorship that they feel comfortable, they feel safe in. And this, for rural systems that are within certain social cultural contexts, is so crucial. So that is why we are making this women to women connection work, because we know that these supply relationships are so crucial. So this program is a supply integration program. As I said, of course, it's an initiative that we are implementing through our Value for Her program, and it will enhance visibility of women companies. Now, some of those companies are actually here, and you're going to hear from them very, very shortly. So thank you so much. I know Atsuko is looking at me because I have exceeded my time. My apologies for that, but I really love this program, and that's why you see also the passion through me. Thank you, and over to you, Atsuko.
Thank you so much, Sabdio. The passion is contagious. Sabdio Dido, Head of Gender and Inclusiveness at AGRA. Value for Her, it sounds so exciting, creating that environment for women to talk to women, women to mentor women, women to lead other women entrepreneurs. So with that, actually in the chat, I've seen women entrepreneurs from Nigeria, Tanzania, Morocco, Malawi, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and really happy to see that there are some winners also, which I'm sure they would be willing to look at sharing their knowledge, sharing their experience. So we'd like to go over to the women companies themselves. This next session, we're going to have to ask the women entrepreneurs who are so important, but to keep it a little bit brief, we'll start off with Fanny Gondway, the founder, executive director of Perisha Agro and Packaging Enterprises in Lilongwe, Malawi. Fanny, over to you. If you could just keep it to 2 minutes, it would be much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Greetings to everyone. My name is Fanny Gondway. I'm the founder and executive director of Perisha Agro and Packaging Enterprise. We are based in Lilongwe, Malawi. Perisha is into agribusiness, and we aim at improving the nutritional status of women and children under 5. We just want to help in reducing malnutrition, mainly stunting, which is currently at 37.1% in Malawi, if we compare to 29.3% in Southern Africa region. So we are into seed multiplication and value addition. In value addition, we are processing orange maize flour, we are processing starch from cassava, orange fresh sweet potato flour, and also the fermented cassava flour, among other products. We are also processing poultry feed from the waste. Cassava peels, sweet potato peels, we add soya and the additives, we make poultry feed. We are also trying to be on top of combating pollution. So for us to come up with these products, we work with women. Currently, we are working with 800 women, I should say 800 smallholder farmers, out of which 640, which is 80% of 800 are women. Now, if we are adding 20 women through the women to women supply chain management, we will have 660 women. With these women, Currently, we have reached out to about 24,000 households currently. But with these women, now that we have added 20, we are now planning to reach out to 26,000 households in 2022. And with this addition of 20 women, now we are planning to train them further. We want to train them in simple cash book management, finance, how they can prepare the mandas, we call mandas or dafnas, from the products that we process. For example, from orange face sweet potato flour, from high quality cassava flour, they can prepare those and sell to schools or their markets in the communities. And we also want to provide the readily available market because we'll be buying their produce. They will be producing sweet potato roots, they will be producing cassava roots, they will be producing maize, and we buy and process our products. So we are really trying to intensify our supply chain management. We are also trying to intensify the contract farming with women. Currently, farmers are like women who are on contract farming are 140. Now with the 20, we'll add, we'll have 160 women contract farmers, in addition to the general farmers that we work with, women that we work with, but the contract now will add up to 160. And also this creates job. So we are creating jobs to our fellow women and including the youth also. And also the peer-to-peer, because we'll be taking women from this, for example, if they're into cassava value chain, they have to go to orange face sweet potato value chain, learn how we can blend this, learn how they can manage their crops also. And I'm also planning to formalize the group, the team, to a cooperative. Now we just have groups, but I'm trying to formalize them to come up with a cooperative, and also to help them how they can live, living styles. For example, women, you know, in the communities, they have the resources, but they don't know how to use them. They can have land and the land is just lying idle, but they can rent it out and gain money also. So we are also trying to help teach them how they can do that.
Very good. Thank you so much, Fanny. I know you have so much more to say about Parisha Agro and packaging enterprise. I really see how amazing the work you're doing with regards to women in the supply chains there. Over to Jolenta Joseph, the Managing Director of Sanavita Company Limited in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Thank you. Over to you, Jolenta.
Okay, my name is Jolenta Joseph. I'm a managing director from Sanavita Company Limited. Sanavita is a limited company with the goal of addressing malnutrition through agribusiness engagement using staple crops. So we are producing, adding value, and processing orange flesh sweet potatoes, pro-vitamin A maize, high iron and zinc beans into different products. I think in my background, you can see a lot of products from these crops we are producing. So we are involving smallholder farmers for them to produce, and then we process this into different products. Why Sanavita? Sanavita came up because of the high rates of malnutrition our country is suffering from. Our country is suffering from high rates of vitamin A deficiency and deficiency for women, as well as stunting for children. So doing this can help these farmers and all the community to come out of this. So what we are doing actually for us, we are working with smallholder farmers, training them on good agricultural practices, and then we provide a ready market for them because we are processing. And for us, 40% of our farmers are women. So we are creating awareness to them, and then also do something that they can get vine cuts for them to multiply and produce what they want to produce. And also we are doing awareness creation for the community to, but fortified crops are a bit new to many people. So what we do, we are creating awareness through clinics, in schools so that we can reach out to more consumers as well as farmers for them to produce and sell our products through our local markets, local shops, as well as the retailers or some of the agents in different regions, and attending some of the exhibitions for most of the government officials, policymakers to know our products and understand what are kind of the challenges we are passing through, and so that we can get some of the solution. We have a number of products. We are making products out of these nutritious products, these nutritious raw materials. We have a powder or the flour for porridge. This is good for pregnant women, lactating women, as well as children. We have a stiff porridge flour also from provitamin A maize, and also that's such a nice biscuit that you can see in the picture. It's how it looks like, and most of the kids like it. So from these products, as I said, we are selling through the local channels, and we can see our revenues are growing. Since 2018, where we have been starting, we can see the significant growth, and we look more forward for us to grow more of our business. Sanavita, as I said, is growing, and in 2020, we participated in a global pitch competition, and we came out with 2 prizes. One of it is Gain Food Technology Innovation Prize. This is cash of $10,000, and this helped us to buy some of the important machines for us to process our products. And we received also a AGRA Mentorship Prize. This is the lady in Philippines. So she provided such kind of nice prize, and she keeps on mentoring us on how we can grow more of our business. Luckily, in 2019, I also emerged as a Malkia Nguvu. This is a Swahili name, but Malkia Nguvu, I think, is a woman who is inspiring and touching life of the people. And then this is given by such a big media group in Tanzania. So that kept us like being very confident. If people are seeing that we are doing such a great thing, so it's perfect for us. With the grant from AGRA, what we expect to do is adding more 20 women in supply chain through training them on good agricultural practices for them to employ themselves as we provide the ready markets. We will train also 5 women food vendors for them to reduce the production cost of their products through integrating orange fresh sweet potatoes. We'll also train 5 women on processing and value addition of these products, and we'll provide 3 months mentorship so that they can come out with the perfect support and help them to get all the requirements for them to process. And we'll also do awareness creation through different ways.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we look forward to increase the consumption of these products, and we can look at our website so that you can see a lot of good things from Sanavita. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jolenta Joseph, proud Managing Director of Sanavita. I'd like to move next to Catherine Abba, Chief Executive Officer of Octopus Achuvete Limited from Abuja, Nigeria.
Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here today. My name is Catherine Abba from Nigeria. I'm the MD of Octopus Achuvete Limited. We're an agro-processing company based in Abuja. We process groundnut seeds into oil using the cold-pressed method of extraction. Our byproduct is used in baking kuli-kuli, a local snack, and our groundnut cake is sold to farmers as poultry feed. Our natural oil is very healthy as we do not use any preservatives or additives. Octopus Achuvete Limited started by taking oil from processors. And because of the delay in meeting with demand and supply, and also total quality management, we decided to set up our own factory to be in charge of our control. But at last, we're faced with a new problem: inadequate raw materials. With a population of over 200 million people in Nigeria, and a ban on importation of vegetable oil. The supply of vegetable oil has not been able to keep up pace with the demand. And cooking oil constitutes an important component of food expenditure in Nigeria's livelihood. Together with AGRA, we intend to directly train 20 women farmers for the production of groundnut seeds. They will cultivate 5 hectares of land each, making a total of 100 hectares of land. These women will in turn train 2 other mentees during this period. We will provide these women farmers with incentives and modern practices that ensures that the land is not destroyed. We will provide high quality yielding seeds, and we will offtake these seeds from these women at the end of the harvest. We will also be willing to offer our facility for these women. For those of them that are not ready to sell to us, we will give them access to larger markets. We will nurture these women and encourage them, and we'll handhold them to have a business mindset and to think commercial. Our choice of women is because we understand that 70% of farmers are women. And of that 70%, 90% of that number engage in subsistence farming. Some of these women are sole providers for their family. The Women to Women Supply Project will help to bridge the gap in raw materials for our processing plant. It will help to reduce the gap in demand and supply of groundnut oil in Nigeria. It will also help to close up on nutritional gaps as the nutrients in our oil is preserved. There is no interference with the oil. And then it will help to improve the livelihood of the people along this value chain. We are very, very sure that there is a ready local and international market for crude groundnut oil. We believe that when women are empowered, the current and the future generation is enhanced. We, with the help of AGRA, will be providing these women, farmers, the tools, the inputs, the resources that will help them to transit from subsistence farming to commercial farming. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for an excellent presentation, CEO of Octopus. Next, we go to Noella Victoria Ojara of Davingold, Uganda. Thank you. Noella, over to you.
Good evening from East Africa, Uganda. It's my pleasure to be here. I am Noella Ojara, and I head and founded the company Divine Organic Foods. We work in the root and tuber sector in Lira, that is in northern Uganda. Northern Uganda has been struggling and getting out of the effects of a 21 war. And daily in my life, I associate with the struggles of women and of all ages. And we all very well know that women contribute very much into the agriculture sector. However, in Uganda, 80% of these women are labor force in the agriculture sector. And therefore me, associating with a value chain that women do understand and associate with as caregivers was a goal for me as an entrepreneur. So 6 years ago, when I founded Divine Organic Foods, I looked at the entire value chain, and that is where Divine Organic Food works. It works in the entire value chain. It's a certified seed and distributor of planting material, and we are growing into the leading producer and processor of root and tubers, but specifically the sweet potato. I also believe that an investment in the sweet potato value chain directly impacts the woman. This is because in our neighborhoods here in Africa, women are the ones who grow sweet potato, and they are entirely their role to provide for the children. So sweet potato, as globally known as the protector of children, is what today I stand for. You can see that in the entire value chain, Divine Organic Foods provides women with production resources, and this would mean labor for the landless women and seed loans for those who cannot provide. We also therefore work in bulking of the roots, the sweet potato roots. We do a lot of extension services to the women in the value chain of sweet potato, but also vegetables. We therefore bulk and we process for two markets, the industrial market and the non-industrial market. Today, the missing link is being filled by the value for her. And as we have clearly seen that women play a vital role in society, empowering us means you have empowered a number of women. We are working in 15 districts in northern Uganda and have so far impacted over 35,000 smallholder farmers with collaboration from national and international institutions. We are looking at a target of reaching 5,000 women only in the sweet potato sector in the next 4 years. And AGRA's participation value for her is what I celebrate today, because it has come to add a brick to the building of our values. I look at myself in the next 5 years, and I would want to see more women behind me, besides me, and even ahead of me. And that is what I stand for. Thank you.
Thank you so, so much. I'd like to ask Fanny, Jolenta, Catherine, Noella to just turn on your screens so that we can all applaud for you. I was looking at the chat box and everybody was saying great presentations, great work, great contribution. So big applause to all of you. Really fantastic work. And we know that it's every day. So thank you so much. There was one question in the chat box from Vicky Wild. Yes, that says, Mora, thank you for the smiley sign. Vicky Wild had a question. How do you measure some of this success that's happening? How do you measure women empowerment? So Fanny, Catherine, Jolenta, Noella, will come back to you. We'd like to move on to the next session. I'm sure the next panelists have heard the great presentations by the women entrepreneurs. So I'd just like to invite Purva Pandya, the CEO of Empowering Farmers Foundation, also a very, very good friend, Gloria Aturi, Director of Gender Inclusion and Women in Trade at Trademark East Africa, and Janet Mbola, Marketing Information and Communications Manager at the Eastern Africa Grain Council. We'd really like you to, in this panel, because we know you are private sector leaders, to talk about how and if there are opportunities to integrate women in agricultural markets, speaking from your knowledge and speaking from your experience. Purva, I'd like to go to you first.
Thank you, Atsuko. Great to be here, and so delighted to see all the presentation and great women. Apologize for my horrible cold-struck voice. So I think that supply chain integration of women and the work that Export Trading Group as well as foundation, what we have done is that you see it in almost most of the value chains that we have worked. But let me namely, I would give you a great example of cashew. I think, as we all know, so when you talk about processing as well as producing, and you're talking about women empowerment at the community level, when you have a cashew processing plant, 95% in most cases, the workers are women. And what we are talking about in Value for Women program mentorship, this is exactly how the structure is set up. And that is where women are employed. They have a steady job for years to come, and they get into this professionalism about being a supervisor, different division managers, and that is how, and they mentor players under their wing. So that is one example. We also then connect with the small scale producer of cashew in the community. Those are often led by women, cooperative or a small group of women. So that is another way of supporting them with technical assistance and whenever possible, land allocation to grow cashew. So you look at farm to fork, entire supply chain integration. Second example, quickly, I would give you that under foundation, what we have also recognized working in the communities, that when women are there, I mean, I have led so many rural projects myself. So when we have women-led programs and the women in the forefront, the participation of women increases. And then we have created programs where you have a community developer who has been like a mentor. And there are excellent results from sesame value chain as well, which is much, much easier for women to adopt, and high rewards, economic rewards, and low labor compared to cotton, for example. Then I'm talking about a quick, I know I don't want to take too much time because I can go on, but poultry feed. I know that we are trying to become sufficient in our own chicken production. And we have done women-led small groups who the company would have the stock feed and then training them on high quality chicken production. And then connecting them to the market. And that has been another way of impacting in the community and supporting the women integration. And of course, the agro dealership, we have women-led agro dealer programs. So they're independent, but very well trained and supported by the company, and partly supported by foundation to make sure that they have all the right skills. And then they reach out to many other community members. So these are just a few examples that I can give. And what another one is about the processed goods and educating women on nutritious products in Malawi, as well as Zambia, as well as Zimbabwe that I know, and it was in Uganda as well, that we would have women would actually create a sales force, and that would be community-based. So they are actually becoming entrepreneurs by educating women why those products are better, and they are SMEs. So these are some of the examples I can share.
Thank you so much, Purva. This was very interesting. I'd like to move over to Gloria. We've heard from Purva about putting women in front, making sure that we have women-led activities to enhance participation of more women, very specific value chains like sesame, like poultry feed, like cashew. Gloria, we'd like to know from your experience at Trademark East Africa, what have been some of the opportunities to integrate women? Over to you, Gloria.
Thank you, Atsuko, and a pleasure to be here this evening. I'll speak from a trade facilitation perspective because I mean, that's really what the space that we are in. And I would like to highlight the opportunities for cross-border trade. I think the earlier speakers spoke about the new free continental trade area agreement. And I think that's where the continent is moving. So in terms of opportunity, I mean, the presentations have been really fascinating. So I just want to highlight the fact that there's a market beyond every border. There's a market beyond the countries in which we're trading or working. So I think the model Value for Her is a really good model, but there is room, obviously, for opportunities regionally, even globally. I like the ambition that some of the ladies have said earlier. So I just want to highlight in terms of trade facilitation that this is a good time. It's a good time to do business even across borders. Obviously, there are still challenges in terms of infrastructure and things like that, which I think are issues we're going to have to deal with for a while, non-tariff barriers. But I think there's a lot of opportunity because right now we have trade facilitation frameworks that support small businesses. We have what we call a simplified trading regime. So if you have value, your goods are valued less than $2,000 US dollars, you can move your consignments across the border with very minimal, paperwork and very minimal delays, which I think is a great opportunity for women in this space. But even for the more formal women and the more structured women, there's still better processes, there's more transparency, there's more predictability if you want to do business from one country to another. So I think for me, the message today is kudos to the entrepreneurs, but look beyond, look into the regional markets, look in the markets in your neighboring countries. In East Africa, for example, we have great opportunities in DRC. DRC is a huge market. So like Divine Foods, who's doing work in Uganda, look at the DRC market, you definitely be able to connect. And the last message I'd like to say, just like people are networking and talking about networks, we also have cross-border networks. Trademark is doing a lot of that space, connecting women the way you're doing women to women, but across borders. So that's a great opportunity that's there. You can connect with people across the region because now a lot of the platforms are there. And of course, with technology, we can even connect virtually. So I look forward to having even mentorship groups that are meeting virtually. You don't have to be in the same physical space, but you can still do business. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for telling us about some of the cross-border trade opportunities as well as networks so that women entrepreneurs can think about larger markets. Janet, I'd like to go to you to ask, from your experience at the East African Grain Council, what do you see as opportunities for women entrepreneurs in agricultural markets? Over to you, Janet.
Okay, thank you very much. So from the East Africa Grain Council, we have been supporting women-led organizations in the grain sector in 10 countries across the East Africa region. And we do this through what we call the grain trade business hubs. We do this in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, Congo, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Malawi, and Zambia. I'm glad Gloria is also here from Trademark and our colleagues from AGRA who have, we've been supporting each other on that. And having worked in the sector, we've seen some of the challenges the women have been experiencing, including access to farm inputs, issues of disintegrated markets, issues of post-harvest and standards, because for us to trade in a structured process, we have to get our standards right, and issues of low productivity. So what this has meant for our farmer, our women, is that they have been locked out of the benefits of structured trading systems. They've been incurring high transaction costs, and also defaulting in orders, especially where we link them to market and they're not able to supply because of the challenges in the value chain. We've seen they have become price of takers, and then sometimes we as women, because of our social issues, we treat our business as social entities, again, which interfere with our trade. So what we've done is that we, in partnership with various partners, developed an integrated innovation, what we call the G Hubs. I'm glad Sabdio is here in this call. She was key, one of the think tanks through the G Hub model when we started, when she was also supporting the value for her around CTA. Thank you, Sabdio, for that. So the G Hub has really grown to a model that supports the women and brings value to women within the grain value chain. And what we do within the G Hub model, we have the database of all the women traders, farmers, processors within the grain sector, within the various countries. And we support them to access services within the entire supply chain collectively. So within the G Hub model, they are able to consolidate all their grain purchases together, their input supplies. And through that, we link them to financial institutions and banking within the banks, and they're able to collectively get their supplies together at affordable prices. And within the same, they're able to also lease equipment, either for drying or for shelling or for increasing production, again, within the value chain. And once they have harvested their commodity, because we find that that's where they incur their highest losses through storage, we're able to then to support the farmers and the and the women traders to store their grain in a very structured process to reduce the post-harvest losses. We also do advisory services and training around the supply chain, support to financial institutions, and most of all, market linkages, because what we've seen is that women for a long time were locked out of the various markets, whether it's domestic markets or cross-border trade, like Gloria earlier said. So we then do market linkages in various levels around that and support the women traders. So the GHub model is one that we would want to scale out, to bring more women engaged in that, and also to organize the supply chain for every of the women involved. And then through that, we then link them to an integrated grain trade system where they can either trade their commodity directly or then store it through what we call even a warehouse receipt system, where they can sell their commodity or store it and then get an advance from the bank while they use their grain as collateral. So those are some of the, an integrated process that innovation that I wanted to share from the grain sector, and it can be, replicated to other sectors. And so what I can say for the women, some of the considerations they can take as they go within trade is the cost of their business and cost of their commodity, the availability of raw material, where they'll be sourcing it from, the convenience in supplies, and the competitive advantage of women. Especially in the grain sector, we see maize is one of the commodity that has quite high competition, but for us as women, we can go to more value crop like green grams and beans, where there's less competition, but high value for the women. As I conclude, I would like us to recognize the triple role of women. Women are in reproduction, women are productive, and women are the caregivers. So if we recognize that role, we'll be able to do a lot within the supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. Thank you very much for showing us this innovative GHub. I'd like to go back to Gloria around the theme of innovations and approaches with regards to the question that also Vanessa posed in the beginning. How do we actually work differently? What can we do more innovatively? Gloria, over to you, and then Purva.
Thank you. I think for me, it's two things. It's embracing technology. I think there's been a lot of conversations this week talking about technology. Of course, technology differs from one space to another, but I think more and more we have to be able to, the market has to reach you virtually. So I don't have to physically interface with you to be able to do business with you. So more and more women have to embrace technology. You have to be able to, even using WhatsApp, it's amazing the kind of businesses, the kind of trade you can do using just a WhatsApp platform. But people have to be able to reach you without coming to find you physically in any location. So I think for me, one of the great opportunities we have is technology, and just taking on in getting into the digital space. I mean, with the COVID, that was even more evident. I like what someone said in the chat around food security and trade in the cross-border space, because when the borders shut down, people had to connect virtually. So they were either finding each other over the phone or online. There was no other way to keep the markets going, but it worked. And so that for me, I see is the huge opportunity. But also, I think forums like this, learning, information sharing, best practices. I mean, I'm so impressed by the projects we've had today. We need to share that. We need to share lessons across Africa, what's working, and that will also get more and more women into this space. Thank you.
Thanks, Gloria. Over to you, Purva.
Thank you. Since Gloria has touched upon the digital technology and the telecommunication, and I completely agree with that. Since we work primarily with farmers, and our work involves supporting the communities with right type of technologies and connecting them to the market. And within that framework, within that rural agricultural ecosystem, how do you integrate women-led enterprises, or how do you bring those women, even when you say cooperatives? Because more often than not, and I worked in over 9 countries myself, so I do speak from experience, is that when you have to identify that smaller group of women who are in not just one person, that has been our experience, and you create that a very good core operational skills. When you're talking about, you go to one program and they teach you marketing, and then you have cash flow and so forth, but it doesn't sustain. So what we have done is, when we have had opportunity to manage small grant for, and these are some of the groups, they get these grants are women-led. And even outside of that ecosystem, when we work with farmers, so that we identify and within their network and say, hey, you have very good analytical skills, you are very good at marketing, somebody could be trained for logistics, somebody could be trained for accounting, so somebody could be trained for production, quality control. So in that supply chain and production network, creating this type of skill set and having certain mentoring that even kind of clears out a lot of social issues, which we all have. Some women are, I just call them soccer moms club, they love doing that, and they are not necessarily good at production. So often those people are put in the place as a cooperative leader. And so we have to really, what we do, that innovation, and it is not necessarily an innovation, but the approach is what I'm talking about. And that seems to bring a lot of productivity, a lot of they understand that I can leverage from my core team members' skill set. So that is what I see more and more, and we need more and more mentoring and skill upskilling programs.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Janet, Gloria, and Purva. We've actually run out of time, and I just wanted to thank you for sharing from your experience, because you have a deep wealth of knowledge when it comes to working with farmers, women entrepreneurs, and also integrating into the value chain. So I'm sure we will be partnering, and thank you so very much. I'd like to now introduce Apollos Nwafor, who is Vice President for Policy and Strategy at AGRA. We have over still 100 participants that are linked, and we also have to let Aman say something. So Vice President Apollos Nwafor of AGRA, over to you.
Great, thank you. And a good afternoon or evening to everyone. I hope you can all hear me very well. Please confirm that you can hear me very well.
We can hear you, not see you.
Okay, apologies that you're not able to see me. And that's because I must let you know I had to take my son to the hospital, so I'm actually at the clinic, so apologies for that. But I think one of the things I'd like to say is I'd like to thank every one of us for today's launch. So it's beautiful that we're bringing together a very distinguished set of participants, and all of you as moderators and leaders, to come together to actually celebrate our women. And we all know that that's because our women play critical roles in both the agricultural and business sectors in sub-Saharan Africa, and they produce food as farmers, entrepreneurs or laborers, and contributors to agribusiness supply chains. And that's really important, because then that means that we're not going to be talking about agribusiness development if we don't talk about women suppliers, especially as they play a significant role in driving strategic relationships that ensure that we have access to food and that we're strengthening food security in the continent. But you see, be that as it may, there are significant gender gaps, which exist in agricultural productivity and businesses. And this is affecting the performance of businesses in agriculture. So the gender productivity gap at farm level, is between 20 to 30%. And while that of at the business level, the profitability gap is at 34% between women and men-led agribusinesses. And this is quite worrisome, given the fact that we know the critical and pivotal role that women play in driving food security in the continent. And their role in agribusinesses, particularly in supply chains, remains critical. We all know what happened during the COVID. We could share stories of the fact that during the COVID period, women suppliers were very pivotal in driving the informal food trade across borders, which meant that more people were able to eat, despite the fact that hunger increased, but it could have been worse, but for women suppliers. And maybe at some point or in another occasion, we could talk about and share the stories of these women and how they were able to help, in addressing gaps, especially, especially in cases of short supply chains. So these gender-related losses, are huge, and it is costing us hunger, poverty, and food security in the continent. So we need to address this head-on by enabling our women, and that's important. Vulnerable women agribusinesses owners have limited social and human capital, and that's because our banks, our financial institutions are structured to support, men-led agribusinesses, and that's critical. So there's a social construct that is actually serving as a barrier. In many cases, we've seen policies that have been enacted, but there's a huge gap in implementation. You hear MDs of banks or financial institutions say, yes, we want to lend to more women. We have this policy, we have this financial instrument, but its application is near zero. And that's critical. So for AGRA, our women-to-women supply chain grant is actually meant to address this, amongst others, and this is why we've rationalized, this novel attempt to try and incubate and increase the number and diversity of women-owned agri-SMEs, which is going to be pivotal to ensure that we are seeing increased participation of women inclusive supply chains, using a matching grant. So with this grant, as AGRA, we will be targeting at least 20 women-owned or led agri-companies as grantees, through whom we are expecting to reach at least 400 women micro businesses. And that's critical, because then we can then demonstrate proof of concept and see how we can work with the rest of you to achieve this at scale. It's going to be a process. It was a process, in getting this, and a very competitive one, in getting 227 applicants. All of them are very enthusiastic, and we're really impressed. So I personally want to congratulate these 227 applicants, who have made it to the top 20. And of course, we were very clear. These businesses are focused on food, mostly in processing and marketing. Majority of them will actually be able to take in raw materials from women farmers, and micro entrepreneurs, for value addition for domestic or regional markets. And that's important, because at the same time, we're hoping that these women-led agri-SMEs will be contributing to driving food trade as part of our commitment to seeing the successful implementation of the ACFTA, the Continental Free Trade Agreement. So no one can handhold a woman better than that person who actually understands her issues. And that's critical. There's something that we usually say when we began to, more than 17 years ago, when I began to look at gender, we said nothing without us unless it is us, right? So it means that we're not asking anyone to do this on behalf of women. It has to be led by women. It has to be women. It has to be their voices. It has to be their leadership, and it has to be their results. So it's going to be 100% women-owned, women-driven, and those results will speak for themselves to demonstrate that our women-owned agri-SMEs or businesses can do better in an environment in this continent. So we know that, the UN Women Report of 2017 noted that, that there were a number of key factors limiting these women's businesses. And this was some of the analysis that we reviewed and looked at to drive this. So our value for her is driving the innovation in various areas of food markets as well as trade. So we will continue to recognize the critical role of market as an impetus for productivity. And for us in AGRA, we plan to improve market access for women smallholders, promoting mentorship and peer support among participating women SMEs and women smallholders, and micro entrepreneurs. So from the women SMEs, we hope that this will mean more stable supply of products, of raw or processed materials, depending on how they've arranged themselves or proposed to relate. So in our catalytic role as AGRA, we are always planning for sustainability of every initiative. And that's why all of us are sitting here today, because at the end of the day, as much as we are doing this as AGRA, we want to ensure that there's a shared ownership and that we can run with this, because that's what makes it sustainable, that we can achieve it at scale, either through organizations like the African Development Bank, Trade Bank East Africa, and the rest of us in the private sector who can help, ensure that we are building and sustaining these efforts. So when we all work together in an inclusive manner that is effective, we can be guaranteed that our dream, of a world where nutritious food is available in abundance within the continent and income is increased as households levels, and these are beneficial to women in an equitable manner, then we're sure that we're on the pathway to inclusive agricultural transformation and ensuring that we don't wake up in 2030 and see Africa as the only continent, only hungry continent. So with these remarks, it is my pleasure on behalf of Dr. Agnes Kalibata, the president of AGRA. It is also my pleasure, on behalf of
Okay, Vice President Apollos Nwafor of AGRA, Vice President of Policy and Strategy, thank you so much. And I'd just like to, before I hand it over, just to thank him for his passion for this exercise, for value for her. I think it is really, we've seen from the speakers, from all of the panelists, how excited we all are. So I'd like to thank, first of all, Catherine, Noella, Jolenta, Fanny, Purva, Gloria, Janet, and of course, Maura for their excellent interventions. Really, we are so excited with the launching today of Value for Her. It is so much more than just the candidates, than just the grant, but it's about the network. It's about a place where people can learn from each other, where women can support each other. And so Sadbio, I'd like to hand it over to you for the final words and closing. And with this, congratulations, over to you.
Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you so much to Dr. Apollos. I know that this was the last minute call-in and he's always stepping up for women, and I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much to Maura from USAID. Maura, this is also not the only time she has joined us for this initiative. Again, truly, truly appreciated. And thank you so much to all our speakers, the women companies. This is your program. As you can see, the continent is so inspired, and you can see from the charts that everybody is so excited about this opportunity that is growing businesses for women. And we need to take it. You guys need to take it, go to the sky with it. You know, it's your space, and we are here to facilitate and support you. So please take it and go with it, run with it. Bring your businesses not only to you within your country, but take it across borders, take it to the globe. There are really no limits here. And this is the encouragement that has come through all the speakers today. And to the panelists, the private sector panelists, Pova, Janet, and Gloria, thank you so, so much. I know Pova is not even feeling that well, but she said she has to be here, and she came on, and she came on the panel. So thank you so, so much. Again, most of them were called in at the last minute, and they all turned up. Thank you so much. And to Atsuko, I just want to say thank you so much. I truly appreciate the collaboration we have. I mean, she just stepped in 2 days ago, honestly. How else I don't know how to thank you. Thank you so, so much to such a fabulous event. I am sure our participants have learned a lot and have been inspired enough by how Atsuko has demonstrated the opportunity that the women were presenting themselves here. Thank you so, so much. And to the women who have applied for this grant, now watch out for the announcement next week. The announcement is going to be made. The top 20 companies, I quickly beamed them. I hope you didn't see them, because we want to surprise you with an email that is going to tell you that your idea has won, and that you're going to go forward with your program. So with those very few remarks, many remarks I spoke earlier, we say thank you so much from AGRA. Thank you so much to our participants. Thank you so much to the women who are working so hard to feed the continent, and have a great weekend. And we look forward again very, very soon to stay in touch. Thank you, Atsuko. Thank you, most appreciated. Thank you.
Let me add my voice in thanking Atsuko, thanking you, Sabdio, Pufa. It was great to see all of you. And you should always remember that I'm one of your champions. I will continue to support this.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Have a nice weekend, everybody. Congratulations on the launching.
Bye-bye.
Well done.
Thank you.
Bye.